Hello, uh, and welcome to this tutorial on Glioblastoma Navigator for the patients or caregiver. So in order to reach Glioblastoma Navigator, you have to write on your, you have to point in your browser to navigator.glioblastomamultiforme.it. So when you reach this page, you have this simple menu, the Glioblastoma Navigator. You can switch, select the language. You have a list of centers. At the moment, only Italian centers are reported. Clinical trials, phase 2 or more clinical trials. At the moment, again, only Italians are registered, but of course, any other clinical trial can be registered. And then you have the user menu. The first page, you see some help. First of all, a video talking about what is a supermind, so what is the concept behind Glioblastoma Navigator. And then you have, okay, of course, you can play the video, and then you have a very short list of functions for the patients and their caregivers, doctors and researchers, and then, very important, you have the help. If anything is not working properly or if you need help, you can write to info@glioblastomamultiforme.it. So at the bottom of the page, you have the instruction to register. You should register or as a caregiver or patient or as a specialist. And very important, below here at the bottom, you find on the right the cookie policy preferences for setting. You have to decide what to do. For example, reject all. And then you have the privacy policy, which is this one. Well, there is a bug, it seems, and terms and conditions. I will fix this. Very good. So let me go fast to the content of the system. First of all, you have to be registered. So you go or you select this link, register as a caregiver patient. You go here. You see, in order to register, you have to specify a correct functional email address. Then you have to read terms and conditions. These are correctly reported, or probably the problem has been solved. So you can read carefully the conditions, the terms of use. So what we are doing, namely, it describes that we are trying to do a sort of virtual trial, collecting information from the different patient and trying to see if we can apply some statistic and get some insight in the best option for the different situation of the high-grade glioma patients. Or another point, you should you can have a look to the privacy policy, which is this one. It's loading, and here you can find all the terms. Very good. So if you register, then you have to be careful that the registration has to be approved. The reason at the moment we require this is that we have to check, for example, if a patient is registered as a patient or if it is a specialist, we have to be sure that he's or she is a specialist. And that's more or less the main reason. Anyhow, let's suppose that you register. You will receive, when approved, a link. Then you can set your password, and then you have access to the system. At the moment, I will use this account, which is the one I have just registered and approved. I have, of course, to read terms and conditions, privacy policy, and select yes, which confirms that I have read, understood, and accepted the terms and conditions and the privacy policy, and then I can log in. When you log in, the menu is more or less the same. Well, for example, we have one thing which is more, which is my patients, because a caregiver can deal with one or more patients. And by the way, specialists can be caregiver too, so they can enroll and register information from the specific patient. And then, as you can see, this view says, it's very simple. It says, Roberto, you don't have any patient present, so you can add a new patient profile. Of course, any view can be used, or you can edit the information. In this case, of course, I can select the language, select the time zone, the password, and so on. So let's suppose we add a patient profile. I click this link, and I have to add a patient profile. I specify the nickname, a nickname which is just useful for me because we don't care about the name of the patient. We just need to, let's say, request record information related to therapies and so on. In this case, you write, for example, I write test patient. The birth date, I can write, for example, 0602 2000, 9998, for example. Sex, male. And of course, at the beginning, the view can be something different from what I see now. So my suggestion is that you zoom out, you select your zone, can be anywhere, for example, here, and you position the patient somewhere. Let me remove this, for example, and I set the patient, for example, here in Prague. I select the marker here, and I put here the information. This is useful, for example, for some personalized services and so on. Then, of course, you can add notes, and then you save. So when you have saved, you see we have a link here. I can select the link. And below the patient description, you have the possibility to provide information. So add diagnosis, add scan, add the surgical procedure, add the radiotherapy, add treatment, add a status update, send an advice request, send a support request. I will explain you later the meaning of these buttons. And below you have a list of information provided. The first thing that you have to do is to add diagnosis. So I add the diagnosis. The patient is selected automatically. You have to specify the date of the diagnosis. Can be today, or you can also insert information related to the past. For example, I see 00504 or 0904 2018. 2018. Okay. 2020. Okay, for example. I have to select the type of tumor, for example, glioblastoma. I can also specify the specific mutation or characteristic of the tumor, if I know. For example, I can say unmethylated, wild type, and I can, for example, say, okay, this is TERT, or AGFR, and so on. I have to define the Karnofsky score related to the date of the diagnosis. These are, imagine, events in the story of the patient. So Karnofsky score can be 90, and proliferation can be, for example, 30. I can also add notes, define 8 in centimeters and weight. I can say 180 and weight can be 70, for example. I save. Okay. Every time you add something, you can also edit, of course, coming back to the, in case you realize that something is wrong. It's important that we provide correct data, because in statistics, machine learning, we know that if you put garbage in, so not correct information in, probably the model that we will develop will be full of bugs. And if the data are correct, then it's the possibilities that the model can be quite useful. Okay, so let's go back to my patients. Now I see that I have registered a patient. I select the patient, and then I can go on adding other information, for example, a scan. You see that here in the page describing what happened to the patient, you have a list of all information you have provided. So I add the scan. The scan can be the date you have. The patient is selected automatically. You can set the date of the scan. Can be, for example, the date of the just before the diagnosis, 05/04/2018. Then a type of scan can be an MRI or a functional MRI. You can select. The number of tumors can be 1, for example. The size of the largest tumor can be 5 in centimeters. The change from the last scan, let's suppose this is just the first scan, I can say not applicable. Okay. And then I can define the position of the tumor, can be of all the tumors. So if I have more than one, I can define everything. I can say, for example, parietal lobe, right side. Okay, I define the Karnofsky score, can be again 90, and then notes, and these are optional fields. Every time the system realizes that some mandatory information is missing, you are asked to provide the information. So I save, and voila. If I go back, for example, I will see an updated view where I have a diagnosis and a scan. Let's suppose I have a surgical procedure. Well, I add surgical procedure. Again, the patient is selected automatically. I can set the date, can be the 20th of April 2018. And then I can select the procedure, can be a biopsy, a partial resection, a total resection. Let's select total resection. And then I can add complications like, I don't know, muscle weakness, seizure, if any, or confusion, memory loss. I don't know. You can set what happened. The Karnofsky score can be more 80, for example. In this case, I can again add notes, 8 and weight, and save. Going back. Now I need to refresh, and then I have my surgical procedure. Again, I can select anything, and for example, edit. And I can say, okay, probably there was no muscle seizure, muscle weakness, so this is not okay. I can add muscular joint pain, so I save and I'm set. So after a surgical procedure, normally we have a radiotherapy procedure. Patient is selected automatically. Then you can say, okay, in June 01, 06 2018, there was this treatment. The treatment was based on, was I would say hyperfractionated radiotherapy, for example, and what happened is a mild rash. Karnofsky score, I would say probably 80 again, and then these are optional information. You can, for example, add characteristic of the radiation, the doses, and so on. Again, my patients, select the patient, and then you see I have more information. I can add a treatment. Okay? So treatment can have a start date and an end date. Type of treatment, we can use any treatment. We have more than 300 treatments. For example, you can simply say, okay, I did the STOOP protocol. Okay. From when? From the beginning, 05, 04, 2018 till the end, which means I don't know, October, 10 of October 2018. That's more or less all. Then I can avoid specifying the dose or just say standard. Via was mainly oral. The schedule was other, for example, specifying the notes. Probably what happened is low blood counts and so on. Karnofsky score, I would say probably at the again, this is the beginning of the period, and when I register this information can be, I would say 90, for example, and then again notes and everything I save. I can there is a bug. We will fix this. Let me go again on my patient. Go here. Let me see if the information was anyhow registered. Same so. And then I can add a status update. Again, this patient, I can say, for example, in November 01, 11, 2018, the patient decreased the Karnofsky score, and I can again add notes, the age and the weight, and save. Okay, let me go back to my patient, select the patient. I can send an advice request, of course, which means the specific patient, the type of tumor, I select again glioblastoma. The Karnofsky score can be anything. What can I do now? I suppose that the request is you will send is more precise, more descriptive, and so on. I save. Again, I see this message, error message, but I hope this is just a minor bug, because I realized that the information have been inserted, including the advice request. The advice request will be answered by the specialists. Again, any of these can be duplicated, so you can add more scans. For example, let me add another scan. The scan was, for example, at the beginning in June, I mean, at the end of the May, which is 25 of May 2018. It was again, in this case, a functional MRI. The number of tumors was 1, and the size of the larger got worse, was 6 centimeters. I would say a little worse than the previous one. Location of the tumor, right side, and I would say parietal lobe. Again, Karnofsky score 70 or 80. You have the description of the specific Karnofsky score and save. Fine. Now I've inserted all the information regarding my patient. By the way, the patient can be myself. Other useful service at the moment are the centers, which means at the moment, as I told you, are just in Italian because I just inserted the Italian ones, so I can zoom and see where the centers are. For example, here I can select and I see the description here, and now I have also a list below. I can simply browse the list, or I can simply select any specialization, for example, proton therapy, and you see the national center where we have proton therapy in Italy, or I would say neuro-oncology. I am more center, and then if you select the center, for example, here, you have the description of the center, and if you select the center, you have also the list of clinical trials that at the moment are active in the center. If you go in the clinical trials, you can, for example, select the Karnofsky score, or select any mutation, for example, MGMT unmethylated, as the system give you the information about the clinical trial, where the clinical trial is running, and then of course you can read more information here. This is in Italian. The center was inserted in Italian. In this case, when you see that the system switched to another language, you can go back in English and at least have the description of the field in English. Okay. I forgot to mention one important thing. Let me go back to the patient. I select the patient. One thing which is quite important also to synthesize is this one. Suppose that I want to add another treatment. Again, you can select the start date, or the treatment can be, for example, in August 2018, and I can simply specify the kind of treatment, or add the specific clinical trial. Each clinical trial has a code. You can select any of the codes inserted by the system, and then save. As I told you, the system tells that there is a field that has to be filled. So I, for example, say dendritic cell immunotherapy. Again, I save. The system tells me that the VI is important, so I say, for example, intramuscular, and the schedule is, for example, once a month. Okay, I save. Karnowski score is required. Well, I hope I finish. The Karnowski score is 80. I save, and now it's set. I get this error, but if you go back and you go to the list, you see that the treatment has been inserted correctly, and there were no side effects. So you see here a sort of list, and this, of course, is a sort of synthesis of what happened to the patient that can be used by the statistic, but also can be used by the same patient. It can be printed and brought to as a summary to your specialist or the team which is following your therapies. Okay, that's more or less all for the moment. If you don't forget to log out, when you log out, the system just present the home page. As I told you, you can also launch the video here and understand what is behind this website. And that's more or less all. Thank you again for your passion, for your attention, and see you next time.